Ideate Software. Ideate Software is a partner of Microsol Resources. We do basically one thing, and that's create Revit applications. So we're not creating applications for Navisworks or AutoCAD. I mean, we specifically are Revit focused. And so we've been doing this development for quite a few years. We actually have 6 add-on solutions to Revit now. And not only are we developing this software, but we're developing, basically online content, help. We've got videos, great support. Our latest releases are updated on the last 4 releases of Revit. So currently that's Revit 2020 through 2024. And what that means is, in May, we did a big update to align with Revit 2024, and we updated Revit 2020 through 2023. Of course, we have earlier applications if you're using 2019 or 2018 of Revit. It's just that we didn't update the latest features on those versions. I also wanted to make you aware that we have a YouTube playlist for what's new. If I click here, we also have a YouTube playlist for Ideate software videos in general. So these were all the ones we did for our May 2023 release. And you see here that there's actually quite a few on Ideate Annotate and Review, the things that we're going to be talking about today. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. Okay, so again, just to kind of give you sort of a very high level overview first, before we jump down into Ideate Annotate and what it is I said we create 6 solutions for Revit. And so I've highlighted here basically what we're going to be talking about today is one product called IdeateApps, but IdeateApps is a collection of 10 tools. When you install IdeateApps, you get these 10 tools, and one of the tools is Ideate Annotate, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But when it comes to productivity, we also have another application called Ideate Sticky that allows you to live link Excel, Word, and PDF documents into your Revit project and keep them up to date. And then we have a number of applications that are around data management in Revit, project auditing, model, and data health of the Revit model. So Ideate BIMlink allows you to extract all the parameter data and information behind that parameter data, send it to Excel, be able to make manipulations and updates and formulas, and then import that information back into the Revit model. Ideate Explorer is our model browser. It shows you every single element of the Revit model, and then you can search on parameter values. It actually has a great warnings management system too, so you can search for elements that have warnings on them and be able to fix them very easily. Ideate Style Manager is our product that allows you to understand all these. We've lumped these into what we call styles, but object styles, line patterns, and be able to manipulate them and merge them and really control how all these styles, even filters, view templates, how they work. And especially if you're copying information from one model to another, a lot of times you get a lot of garbage. So this allows you to sort through that garbage and really make sure that your models are lean and healthy. And then finally, Ideate Automation is our most recent solution that allows you to sort of automate some of these workflows with BIMlink, with Explorer and Style Manager specifically. For instance, extracting model health data from the model at a particular time in the evening when the computer is not being used, as an example. So anyway, I just wanted to highlight those, our sort of portfolio of applications. But today, we're going to be doing kind of a short webinar, 30-minute agenda. And what we're going to be specifically jumping down into the Ideate Annotate tool, which is one of the tools of IdeateApps. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about Ideate X-Ray, because I thought that was kind of important to show. We've got some overlap between Ideate Annotate and Ideate X-Ray, which you'll see. And then I also wanted to give you just a hint of Ideate View Creator, some of the sheet and view tools that we can have with that come with Ideate apps. All right, and I'm going to switch over here to Ideate apps in just a second, but I just kind of wanted to introduce it as, like I said, it's a collection of 10 focus-driven tools. So when you install this one product called Ideate apps, you get these 10 tools. allowing you to renumber things, find elements, place views and sheets. And of course, as I said, we're going to be focusing on Ideate Annotate. So what is Ideate Annotate? Okay, one of the major benefits of Annotate is to review all of your 2D documentation, your construction documentation, for instance, and you can see like is there overlapping issues, like for instance, tags or text or dimensions, and it's going to flag that for you. And in fact, when we look at, what are these clashed elements, things like tags, text notes, dimensions, spot elevations, elevation markers, generic annotations, grid heads, level markers. So it's all the 2D information within your documentation. So we're not clashing walls. That's another sort of whole nother sort of workflow. And with, for instance, Navisworks or others that are doing sort of model checking when it comes to clashing. This is specifically 2D clashing. And so we can reduce the liability of your construction documentation as it goes out the door. We can produce clear and uncluttered drawings. It's very important. Architects, engineers, construction professionals, we're all very proud of the deliverables that we create, and we want to make sure that it is the cleanest and the most legible. And this really allows you, Ideate Annotate, to automate your QA and QC processes. And in fact, in next month in October, I'm going to be doing another presentation for Microsol resources where we're going to delve down into the QA, QC processes. So if you're interested in that webinar is available as a link on the Microsol webpage. So you can go there to events and you can see that you can register for that one as well. Okay, so let's get right into it. Demonstrations here. I'm going to switch over to Revit. Today, I'm using Revit 2024, which is the latest release from Revit. And you see that this is a new data set that Autodesk introduced called the Snowden file, which is kind of nice. It's actually it's a mock project, but it's in Pennsylvania. And there's quite a few different blogs and articles about this particular data set, which is kind of interesting. So if you are interested, you can just sort of Google Snowden Dataset, and Autodesk has done a number of sort of presentations around this. All right, so let's come over here to one of the first floor plans, and this is a mixed-use plan, meaning our project, meaning that it has some retail on the first floor, some commercial space, but also some condominiums, residential on upper floors. So this happens to be the floor L1. All right, so we go over here to Ideate software. All of the Ideate software applications are on the Ideate software ribbon panel. And so you'll see that all the ones I just talked about, right, gave you a very high level overview: BIM Link, Explorer, Sticky, Style Manager. And then starting here with Renumber all the way to the right, this is the Ideate Apps. So when you install Ideate Apps, you get all of these tools. So let's go and look at Ideate Annotate. When I bring up Ideate Annotate, it gives me this dialog that allows me to browse any 2D information or elements within the Revit model. So for instance, as an example, if I come down here to text notes, text, it actually says, I can expand on this, trash bin and chute. So I can double click and I can highlight to select that. So if for those of you that are familiar with Ideate Explorer, it has some of the similar capabilities of being able to, directly search for things, right? So if I wanted to search for an item, I could select the search box. I can actually sort by category or view. I can look at the active view or the entire project or my current selection. So this is kind of just giving me a nice encapsulation of all the 2D elements within Revit. But I think what's really cool is being able to sort of review that information as well. But before I do that, I wanted to also show you, like with a filter, I can come over here and I can say, you know what, maybe I want to filter dimensions that have overrides. So I look at this and I say, oh, actually, you know what? I've got 2 dimensions that have overrides. Let's look at that. Let's select that one. And you see that it's right here. I put a verify in field. And maybe that's a no-no, right? I replaced the actual value with verify in field. So let's say we did verify that in field, and it's actually 17 foot 3 inches. So I'm going to say change that, and so no, it's no longer a value override. So in fact, we have 2 here, right? So if I refresh this list, now we only have 1. And so I can go through and review information like that very easily. And you might say, well, how did I do that? if I come to this pencil and edit that filter rule, you can see it says, I'm looking at dimensions as the category. The property has a value override. It's equal to true. So you can search for all different kinds of properties and create these, what we're calling ideate filters, allowing you to search for elements. But let's switch over here to review. Review is going to tell me specific information like annotation clashes or blank tags. And I actually have another plan here, kitchen plan. And by the way, you can see that I can, basically switch views. I can do anything in Revit while this Ideate Annotate is open. So it's really nice. We call that non-modal. You could actually even have it on a second screen if you like. And I chose this particular plan because I've set up a lot of problems here, right? So the first one is zero length dimensions. Well, what in the world is that? Well, this ends up happening as if you have a dimension string and then maybe you align the dimension to the wall like I did here. And then you end up with this, it used to say like 6 inches and now it says 0. So you have the option now to say, well, you know what, let's delete that, okay? Let's remove that particular dimension because it's no longer needed here, all right? Then annotation clashes. Oh, well, gee, let's see. Oh, I have a wall tag that's clashing with this dimension. So let's go ahead and take that wall tag and we'll move it, right? And we'll make that a little bit clearer to see. And each time I can sort of refresh. And so the number of issues is going to be going down. So blank tags, all right? I have a bunch of blank tags here, and they're actually all related to this wall. And here's another example of where, okay, I realize that this should be showing the mark value of the wall. So I'm going to select on the wall. I'm going to go to the properties here, and we're going to go edit the type properties. And we're going to say the mark value of the wall is going to be RT, which happens to be my initials, but I just thought it's a nice little code there. So now I fill that in, and now we'll refresh. And again, it's going to look at those, and there are no blank tags because, by updating that information, that tag has now been filled in. Duplicate tags. This is something where, I might look at this and say, oh, okay, there's a P6 over here, P06 over here. Well, you know what? Sometimes that's okay. And, you might have, for instance, even room, duplicate room tags or something like that, for a long hallway. And so what I can do is I can actually select on this and, I can say, what, don't worry about this, this particular, dismiss this issue. Just don't show it to me. And then I can always go back and say, you know what, look at my dismissed issues. And now I have that one that's duplicate tags. But for right now, I'm just saying, I'm going to filter on none. So elevation markers with no elevations. This ends up happening if you delete a bunch of the elevations and then the tag sometimes remains. So again, I can remove that and decide that, okay, that's, I want to make sure that that's clean. You can say, hidden by element tags or other not visible. This is kind of cool. Is that right now, we don't know why this is not visible. We just know that it wasn't hidden in the view, meaning if you turn on reveal hidden elements, it's not going to show you anything because, this will only work if the category has been turned off or you've right-clicked hide in view. Like this, if I click on this door and say hide in view, right, by elements as an example, then if I went to the reveal hidden elements, you'd see that. Right? So it's only showing a couple, situations, but there's over 50 different ways something can be hidden. So you can click on the wall tag here and you can go over to Ideate X-Ray. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute here, but our Ideate X-Ray is part of IdeateApps. It's another tool. It says, hey, there's a wall tag here. And why isn't it displaying? So I'm going to find the element. And so it tells me, well, the wall tag is not displaying because the actual wall is not displaying. So I can say, well, why isn't the wall displaying? And now it's going to go through and it's going to tell me, well, it's actually outside of the crop region. So if if I actually want to know more info about that, I can go to our help system and it says view range, floor plans. It's going to tell you, well, this is the primary range, this is the view depth. And, there are settings, how would you change those settings? Basically, as you come down here, you need to go to the plan and then look at your both your view direction as well as your settings for the view range. All right, let's go back here to X-ray. I'm going to just say done for right now. You can also see that there's sometimes keynotes get sort of orphaned and you get an unexpected keynote. That's another review situation. So all these are really nice. Again, being able to then say, all right, let's refresh. And now I've got I've got what, 5 issues. I might want to continue fixing these until I get no issues whatsoever, right? Another thing I can do with Ideate Annotate, let me come over here to my project browser again, and we're going to go to let's say, elevation details here. I think, or actually, no, we're going to go to the details itself. Let's see, right here. This is what I want, stair detail. Okay, so now we're looking at the stair detail. Again, it's going to refresh and say that maybe there's some things that aren't visible here, but that's fine. So you can even browse, for instance, like, again, what are my 2D elements within this view? But what I'm going to do is use you notice that these text nodes don't align. And so I might want to align them up very nicely. So I can hit this little filter here. Oh, first I have to choose align and distribute, and then choose. So I'm just getting the text elements as an example. Once I do that, I can say, well, do I want to distribute vertically or distribute horizontally? I would like these all to be even vertically. So I'm going to say distribute vertically. Then I'm going to say, you know what? I want to align left with this one. And they all align left, but this one disappears because the crop region, the annotative crop, was set a little bit too tight. So now what I've done is I've nicely spaced these. I can align by left or right very easily. So another nice, really, tools here within Ideate Annotate. So again, giving you tools to understand all the 2D annotative elements or 2D elements, and being able to look at, both browsing them in this dialog box and also being able to review if there are issues like clashes and so forth. So that's a quick overview of Ideate Annotate. And what I want to do is, again, expand a little bit on Ideate X-ray, which I mentioned earlier, which is part of Ideate Annotate. So I'm going to come down here to X-ray. I've got a view. I always like to set up all these problems. So we're going to have a floor plan here. So, and I've even, on this floor plan view, I've actually even said, hey, the sink is missing. Why isn't the sink displayed? And in fact, remember I mentioned about, like, I could turn on reveal hidden elements. It might show me the plumbing fixtures, but it doesn't show me the sink itself because maybe it's been hidden by other issues. So what I'm going to do here is come over to Ideate X-ray. I'm going to search for a small area in the target view. I'm going to say next, select by a crossing. And I'm going to come down here to my plumbing fixtures. There's my toilet that I'm looking for, say next, and find elements. So it could search for both elements that were visible and not visible. So we're saying this is hidden by category, right? And so what I want to do is say show me, but in fact, it's actually being driven by a view template. So I can come over here to the properties and come down here to the view template and right here. And I could select a different view template, or in this case, I'm just going to select none. And that way I can come over here and I can say, oh, well, you know what? The reason being is that the plumbing fixtures weren't turned on, and go ahead and select OK. And then actually, let's see, we're still not getting that sink again. So let's just see. I'm going to go over here to X-ray, see what it says. Next, let's say select by crossing. And let's say now that we have our plumbing fixtures, there's the sink. And say find. Let's see what it tells me here. And that actually says, oh, you know what? In this particular case, that sink was put on a work set, right? Oh, that's interesting. Well, that work set's not even open. So let's go over here and say, oh, well, let's open the work set. Yep. Okay, great. And it's hidden by element. So let's go ahead and fix that, which basically turns on that element. All right. And now we finally have our sink. So there was a number of different issues there with that sink. the fact that it was on a different work set, the fact that it was hidden in view, and that the plumbing fixtures weren't turned on was a whole series of things. All right. And then finally, I just wanted to give you kind of a brief overview of some of these sheet and view tools, which are really popular within Ideate Apps. So if I come over here to the project browser again, I'm going to come down here to a view, and I've got the studio unit. And what I did is I created this studio unit actually using View Creator, but you'll notice that I've got elevations here that along the top, Studio Unit 203, east, west, north, south. I created an enlarged floor plan, enlarged ceiling plan, a nice 3D view, and then I filtered a schedule on the actual unit itself. So it has a schedule of all the things contained in this studio filtered by the room 203. So let's go up to View Creator. There are a number of methods for using View Creator, but I'm going to use the last one called Room Views. I'm going to select Next, and I'm going to say Studio. So let's pick Studio 304, 404, 504. So I'm basically going to create these, all those drawings necessary. I'm going to clone the sheet. Real quickly, if I select the room rule and I did all, this is how I created the first one. I said, go ahead and create the enlarged floor plan, the elevations, the 3D views. But since we already have that, I'm going to go back to the clone. We're just going to clone this sheet. I can copy any 2D line work on the sheet and say next. And we're going to do the call out on the L3. We're going to say next. That's great. And so what it does is it's going to create all the elevations. So the 4 elevations for the Studio Unit 203 and 303 and 403. And then it's going to create the enlarged floor plans, the schedule, and the 3D view. So it's going to go ahead at this preview, it's creating all these views. I have the ability to rename them if I so desire. But in this case, I'm going to, once this is done, I'm going to keep all the names because I think the rule that I'm using actually sort of sets the value of north, south, east, west based on where the coordinates are. So that's another nice thing, being able to use that particular rule. And so, like I said, we're about done here. It's actually going to create the sheets as well. I probably should have just picked 2 of the studio units, but it's fine. So now you see, I'm going to expand this a little bit. You can see now that it's going to create all these different studios, 304, 404, 504. And, if I wanted to, I could say, oh, instead of studio, replace with ST or something dash. So I can update all of those. So I'm going to create those 21 views, say done. And now it's going to create that sheet. And it jumps to the Studio Unit 304. And what's cool about this is this was the original one, which was the 203. And now this one is being filtered on 304, which is the next studio. So really cool way to be able to create these room views and elevations and enlarged plans using Ideate View Creator. And then, like I said, we have this Ideate Clone, Ideate Align, and our Sheet Manager that are all working together as part of that tool set. All right, I notice my time is almost done here. So I just wanted to give a summary of what we did. We kind of jumped into the Ideate Annotate tool, specifically under Ideate Apps, and talked about how it can really help with 2D documentation, QA, QC processes. And then Ideate X-ray, being able to understand why something doesn't display in a particular Revit view. And again, X-ray is kind of included, or it is included with Ideate Annotate, that the two can work together. And then that View Creator allowing you to create a whole series of views, such as those room views and those sheets, and even creating new schedules that are filtered on the room.